there's more bugs.
Is it recording directly to your hard drive, or is it recording onto a cloud? So your cloud space, maybe.
Yeah, it's probably cloud space. So I have to figure it out. I didn't realize. So I'm sorry, guys.
You're good, man.
Shoot.
Eric's really disappointed, but I'm cool with it because I love you. I think you're doing a bang up job, man. Don't let the elevator break you down.
Yeah.
In the words of Immortal Prince.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, don't go chasing waterfalls.
Oh, geez, yeah, that's true. Yeah, you need to stick to rivers and maybe lakes. Rivers, even though can be
I'm
dangerous,
used to
lakes. What you're used to, I think.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Odd Testament podcast. My name is Ryan.
My name is Eric.
I'm Greg, and the internet here is slow and dumb. I'm complaining about the magic things that happen at my work.
Yes. Technology, right? So good. And that's another sign that we know we're getting older, guys, when we're starting to complain about technology. So welcome in to all the listeners, whether you're here for a laugh.
Back in my day.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Back in my day, the better times, right? That's what some radio hosts I listen to. They talk about the 70s, and they always talk about better times before all this crap.
Yeah, lines for gas and terrible clothes and
Ryan,
exactly.
Is Delaware a state where somebody fills up your gas?
Is it a state?
Tank?
Let's start there.
Is it? Have you know what I'm talking about, right? Like there's certain state where you have to get your gas pumped by an attendant.
Yes. So it is the first state to answer your question, Greg. So recognize. Okay. Secondly, no, that's not us. That's New Jersey. Like it is literally illegal for you to pump your own gas in New Jersey. So
it's crazy.
And
then you got a tip. Yeah, like that's
right.
Because it's like service, like at a restaurant, like they get like paid $2 an hour to pump gas and like huff fumes, and then and then get like a $5.
Where do I sign up?
Yeah, that's a retirement plan right there, right?
Yeah.
The back end of the life is the bad years, anyways. So why not huff gas and make money?
Why not?
Are there overweight meth addicts, do you think?
For sure.
I've never seen one. Okay. I've never seen one.
I don't know.
Well, okay. So here's the theory then, is they're just rich. Because then they can do meth and eat.
Okay. All right.
So you don't know them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like you can find a skinny alcoholic, but like beer packs on the pounds, like, you know, brown liquors, I can attest. And so, but I eat well. Too well.
That's good.
I eat terribly. That's what. Yeah.
Ryan, no comment. You're like, I'm trying to stay in the church. I'm running.
I
Ryan's a paragon of health.
I barely eat right now, so I'm on a weight loss program.
How's that going?
It's going pretty good. I've lost 36 pounds in 7 weeks.
Let's go.
Yeah, dude. But I'm eating 1,200 calories a day, so that's hard.
All right. So phases of weight loss. Just the first one that I want to talk about is you that first. I don't know. Let's say you drop 5 or 10 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And it hasn't quite showed up in your body, but your body is loose. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Where you kind of felt like you weren't that overweight because stuff didn't jiggle, but now you're losing weight and your skin's loose, and now you're like, well, I look worse. And I feel gross. I'm glad the scale says something better, but it's just part of the process.
Yeah. I heard Jim Gaffigan say, like, I don't want to lose a lot of weight. I just don't want my belly to jiggle when I brush my teeth.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key there.
That's real. That's real.
That's a whole bit. The different stages of even weight gain.
Yeah.
Because at some point your belly folds. I got Eric on that one. That was good. I love it when you hit somebody. When you just
So as a overweight person myself, my belly has gotten to the point before where I've had to make the choice, like, do I tuck the belly inside the waistband or do I let it hang over? And I was a hangover guy, So.
Yeah. You got to do what you got to do. I think that's the key.
The choice between 38 pants and 47 or 40, you jump into the 50s.
Yeah.
What are you trying to cover? Yeah. No. Waist.
I needed to feel better about myself, and having the smaller waist pants was a way to do that. So
listen, I'm not I'm not there yet. I probably should be, but I'm not there yet. But I'm not against Spanx, like,
are you talking about a kink you have, or
yeah?
Oh,
sorry. What were you guys talking about? You guys haven't heard of that?
Welcome podcast.
That new workout program.
So elastic underwear.
Yeah, I'm not against here's what I say whenever we have like food at our church, like after church we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary at our church, and we got like
awesome. Congrats.
And we got like a big cake, and I tell people, hey, you guys need to have 1 or 2 slices because I'm gonna eat the rest, and nobody wants a fat pastor. And so like that's my go-to joke with that is like, listen, I don't get to make that celebrity pastor money, rocking Air Jordans that no one else has, getting to call it a gift. No, I didn't pay for that. No, that's from book money. And no, okay.
No, I'm with you. I gotta have these $700 shoes.
Yeah, I gotta look good. The better your pastor looks, the higher the attendance. Okay. And that's the key. That's what really, what we could wrap up this podcast.
Is that what Corey Demmel's got going on?
He's a good looking man, though.
He's just pretty, and so
he's a good looking man.
He never dresses bad, but he's not like super trendy or anything. But he dresses solid. He just So
Corey always looks ready for a golf course.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that's the Florida look. Let's be honest. I lived there.
Switch out jeans for shorts and play racquetball like he was when he was young. Yeah, good.
Ryan, are we just completely gone?
He's too important to listen to this, isn't he? I would love if he's listening.
No, I'm just absorbing all of this. I love it right now. It's awesome. So,
no one knows who we're talking about.
Yeah, no one knows.
I hope they do.
You're gonna look it up. It's a great church. So
Corey's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our justification. Well, no, Corey, you're great, man. And he's like, oh no, I can't do ministry anymore. The Wallace guys made some weird comments about me being pretty. You are a pretty man, I think.
I think you can say it.
I'm no good at assessing that.
Yeah.
Listen, we all know Brad Pitt is a good-looking man.
That's different. Right. It's a different kind of
but I'm saying that's a top tier. Now it's just like it's Brad Pitt and Steve Buscemi. Like that's our that's our scale that we're working on. So where are you on the scale?
Or the guy who played Igor in Young Frankenstein?
Marty Feldman.
Marty Feldman.
Yeah,
what a funny guy. Anyway.
All right. Do we have a good
Ryan's like, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yes, guys. You know what it's time for?
Getting to know you. Getting to know you. Getting to know you. Getting to know you. Forgetting people, getting to know you.
Getting to know you. So so I have a question for you guys, but as former youth ministers, youth pastors yourselves, what is your greatest youth ministry fail? Just the first that you can remember. Yeah. Your biggest fail.
Ooh.
Never. You've never had a moment where it's like, oh man, like I shouldn't have a job right now.
Bro, so mountaintop to mountaintop.
All youth ministry is, if you're doing it right. No teen pregnancies, no drug scandals. All your leaders are obedient, on time, ready. In fact, you make them better, and that's how it works. Okay, I got one to warm us up. It's So I had a student in I ran a senior grade small group, and he just turned 18, and his parents said that he could get a tattoo. And I love tattoos. It's one of the things he and I bonded over. And so we talk about it, and he would draw stuff up. And when I'd get a new one, we would just go back and forth. And I was like, this is great. This is our bonding thing as leader and student. And he goes, hey, I really want you to come with me to get my first tattoo. My mom and dad can't make it. I don't want to be there by myself. Like, would you come and hang out with me? I was like, absolutely, man. And so he's getting a shoulder tattoo. And so he's in the chair. We're about an hour in, and we're just like laughing and having fun. The artist is super chill. It's this like tattooed like woman. She's got like the big, like, think like tattoo artist female. That's her, like in your head here. And and so then I don't know if you guys have gotten tattoos. Like, I've actually, Ryan, I think I was there for one of yours, and then Greg, I've been there for a few. Like other artists will come exactly. Other artists will just like come in and out and like look at the stuff that you have, that the other artist is doing. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I see you using the shader and all this stuff. And so another artist comes in, who apparently knew the student, and he goes, hey, David, man, it's so good seeing you. Oh, I'm so glad you're getting tattooed here, man. It's so great. And he looks at the tattoo artist and this female, and he says, hey, did you know it's David's birthday today? And she goes, no, I didn't. That's really awesome. Happy birthday. Like, this is cool. I get to give you your first tattoo, and it's your birthday. And he goes, yeah. Hey, do you have a present for David? And she goes, I think I do. And she turns to us and she flashes us, like lifts up her shirt and flashes us. And I immediately look at my student, and my student looks at me, and just without saying it, I'm just like, right here, buddy, like eye contact. Like, and she lets her shirt down, and we finish the tattoo, and like just an awkward like silence of like, and the awkwardness is like, I just don't know what to do here. What is the protocol of getting flashed by a woman, a full-grown woman? Nice. And so then I felt so guilty. So I went to, speaking of Corey Demmel, he was the head youth pastor at the time. And I went to him and I was like, okay, here's the story. In case you hear it from some parents, I did nothing. I didn't initiate it. like the drive home was with the student was just like, dude, that was crazy. Hey, maybe don't go back to her, like, or go back. I don't know. Like, I just want you to know, like, I didn't initiate that. So that's probably my, I don't know if that was a fail, but that was my most awkward for sure.
I don't know that I've ever heard that story. That's hilarious.
I haven't either. That is, that's wonderfully awkward. That is so beautiful. Yeah.
Greg, what about you?
Again, no fails. I have like sad stories. Go, Eric, which one?
How about the octopus frisbee?
This isn't so much. All right. I haven't told this to a bunch of people. To a few, but this isn't a fail. This is great youth existence.
It's just teenagers.
Yeah, we're at camp, and at camp they play random games, and so you get points for your team and things like that. So 2 teams are playing, and kids from my youth group are on one of those teams. And by the way, one year at camp, I frustrated a ton of other churches because we went there and I really wanted, I'm going to act like I had noble intentions. So I have two. So this one, I had my kid, and Eric, you might've been on this one. No, I'm pretty sure you were. It was, I told them, look, we're going to calm down when it comes to competitiveness. We're not going to be nuts. We're going to go have fun. And here's how we're going to do it. Win if you can, lose if you must, cheat always.
Cheat always. Yeah.
So my kids were cheating in every single game.
Yeah.
They had the best time. It was so great, but everybody else was furious with us because our kids didn't care and they were cheating. So we were actually winning. And I was a dean, so I wasn't in charge of a team or anything. So I didn't, and people were getting mad. You shouldn't do that. And I'm like, so
it's out of my hands.
Yeah. It's hard to believe I got let go from that church. Yeah. Who would have thought? In retrospect, I go, yeah, I definitely didn't fit there. I desperately wanted to fit there, but clearly did not. The other one is similar situation, same youth group. Great. This girl I'm talking about, incredible girl, just wonderful. I think it's just
great student, all-star athlete.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So great. And sheltered, but not intentionally. It wasn't like our parents were afraid of anything. She just was a really good family, and so there's no reason to do stupid things. Anyway, they're playing whoever was organizing the game. You do like ultimate frisbee or ultimate football or something like that. They were bored with those things, so they decided to throw in, we're going to do ultimate tripe, or ultimate squid was the one that they did, and so they're playing that and they play the game and everything else. And I am talking with two other youth pastors, just kind of hanging out as the cool kids do. And it's how I imagine myself anyway, is one of the cool kids. But so we're just talking and she runs up and with two other friends of hers and run up to me and these two other youth pastors. And she goes, Pastor Greg, I just got, let's call it 10,000 points for our team. Like, that's awesome. What did you have to do it? And she goes, I just had to put a testicle in my mouth. And, right. And so I'm like, whoa, what? Because she was getting ready to run off. And I'm like, no, stop. What? And she's like, well, we were playing that game. And they just said if I put a testicle in my mouth, then I can get 10,000 points. And I was like, wait, what game? Well, we were over there playing Ultimate Squid. And I was like, oh, tentacle. Maria, tentacle. It's important. She goes, oh, whatever. No.
Whatever.
Youth pastors are crying. They're laughing so hard at this point. And I'm like, no, you are not going home and saying no. This is how it's a tentacle, and it totally matters. I think my wife had to go and explain to her what was going on. So
the difference between tentacle and testicle is your career in ministry. That's
yes. Yeah. No joke. Another point in that thing. And again, such a wonderful kid. I'm telling you, so amazing. And I'm not justifying, but she came up and said, Pastor Greg, I just lost my flower.
My boyfriend took my flower.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like that. Yeah.
My boyfriend took my flower, and she would put flowers in her hair. And her boyfriend kept stealing the flowers out of her hair, like teenagers. You kind of bully a girl if you like her.
Yeah.
And she like ran up like, oh my gosh, like, and it's just like, I think it was at that same camp that it was Holy Spirit night. So Thursday night, and one of the like new students came up again and said, oh no, she called her mom. She called her mom from camp and said, Mom, I just got filled with tongues.
Nope. We got to
like immediately grab the phone and be like, okay, hey, this is, let me explain.
This place is Pentecostal. I hope your parents are, because no. Anyway, we'll move on from that so we don't get whoever's listening doesn't get stuck on this. Our receptionist here at the church, who's just the most wonderful woman. I think I've mentioned it, but is so amazing, so wonderful. She listens to this, and so sometimes I'm thinking, oh no, Bib's going to be listening to this. She said sometimes I'm listening, and I just got to shake my head at you guys. So
right,
that's fair.
Okay, yeah. So mine is not anything like that. I probably should have lost my job, but more for unsafe than anything. So I was a youth pastor in Tennessee, and we went to fall youth convention, and it was about like 30 kids. And in our youth group, we had ages 11 to 18. So it was a huge gap, right?
Yeah.
Well, a little context to that. So my experience in youth ministry before that was high school. So like 14 years old to about 18 years old. So I am used to working with more mature kids, not as young kids. And I didn't have kids at the time. So I didn't really like grasp what I was doing fully. And so anyways, we're at fall youth convention, and it's like one of the days we had like 6 hours of free time. Crazy. I don't know how that happened, but we just had 6 hours before we had to be anywhere. So I was like, what am I going to do with 30 kids for 6 hours? So we went to this mall in Nashville, because that's where it was. It was in Nashville. And this mall, it was like one of the old indoor malls, had all those, but didn't have a movie theater attached, but a movie theater was close. It was across the parking lot, but it was a humongous parking lot. So this is what I did. I got the kids together. We had lunch, all that. We met at like this common place in the mall, and I said, here's the deal, guys. We have like 4 hours before we got to leave and go anywhere. I'm not your parent. I'm not going to treat you like your kids. Pair up, or group up into groups of 4 and meet me back here at this time. I said, if you want to go watch a movie, you can do, again, leave the building and walk across this parking lot and go to a movie theater that I'm not at. You can do if you want, right? I'm like, that should be fine. Groups of 4, whatever, letting them run around the mall for 4 hours. Like, didn't think it was that big of a deal. Apparently it was. But not only did I do that, but also I had a youth pastor friend there with me that after like 20 minutes, we were like, you want to leave? So we got in our vehicle. And
like you just dropped them off at daycare.
Yeah. Except there was no adults supervising. And, and so like they had a blast. Everyone was safe, and I didn't think about this, that they had so much fun. These 11, 12-year-olds, they had so much fun. They went home and told their parents, hey, guess what Pastor Ryan let us do? And my lead pastor called me into his office that Monday morning and was like, hey, so tell me about this. And did you do this? I'm like, yep. He goes, do you want to be in youth? Do you want to be in ministry?
Great response.
Yeah. So
you're like, yeah, I did. High five, Pastor.
Like, what did I do wrong? So that's probably my biggest fail. Thank the Lord, nothing happened to any of the kids. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Gosh, as a parent now, I would be mortified if a youth pastor took my kids and did that. So
yeah. For sure.
Guys, thank you for sharing. Thank you for the good stories, the good laughs. Bib, we're sorry if this this upset you. That was not the point. So
no, it takes a lot to get her upset. That's a totally different category. So no, she listens because she well, she says she loves me. So she's awesome.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, today for the 7 questions, I'm just going to ask the first question. Greg, is this about the book of Ruth?
Yes. How did you figure that out?
And yes.
Good.
Okay, so this is part 2 of what Greg started last week, walking through some weird things in the book of Ruth. So, Greg, take it away.
Yeah. I'm going to even adjust off that. Not the book of Ruth's not so much weird as I guess the weird part would be, why does it exist? What work is it doing? Is it advancing some theological idea or something like that? And sort of, but I would say it's reinforcing the idea. And it's one we talked about last week, which is this idea of Hesed, this faithfulness, that God is faithful. And the response to him, and one that he seems to honor pretty regularly and honor like hard, is when people are faithful in the same way that he is faithful. There's a loyalty. There is correct responses to that loyalty, to being loyal. And it's a there is a almost I would call it an and I'm kind of adding different areas, but almost an irresponsibly loyal. And that would need a lot of clarity, a lot of clarification.
Yeah, like it would be at the detriment of your own safety or provisions, or maybe even what you are promised. You would throw that like on the table as well, like that level of loyalty. Yeah,
absolutely. I will place my life on the line here to follow through. It's I'm with you heart and soul kind of thing that you talked about a couple of weeks ago. And so this is a part of the idea of Hesed. And so it's a substantial idea that is advanced, that is consistent through that. And it's usually God that is being faithful. But when there's certain individuals who are that, when another one that is set alongside Ruth, at least in Hebrew, is Rahab, that her response is counted as faith, but there's a correct response and a giving of safety to the what I'll call very loosely agents of God, giving them basically agreeing with the move of God, and whatever it takes to get this done, placing themselves within danger to do the right thing in that situation. Anyway, this is one of the things. So if we're doing, I also talked about last week the at least according to Gordon Fee and Douglas Stewart, and How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth, this 3 levels of narrative. And I'm trying to be boring, but just a quick reminder. One level would be the entire universal plan of God, and unfolding through creation, redemptive history, and things like that. Another level is God's redeeming specifically of Israel. And then another level is the individual narratives. And so I think that getting a hold of the individual story is what is happening in the story, what is the context and things like that, is really important before we jump into what is the story, what is the work it's doing within a bigger thing, and then what is the work it's doing across the whole thing. So before we jump, like one of the terms we're going to talk about briefly today is kinsman redeemer. And as Christians, we often want to jump, that's Jesus. And I want to say, slow down though. Let's let it exist here first before, so that it becomes our metaphor for what we think among the things Jesus is representing. Get a hold of it at the level that you can work with it and see and turn it around and be able to examine it, so that when you start applying it to Jesus, rather than saying Boaz is a Jesus figure, he is, but it's not because Jesus isn't made bigger because Boaz does this, but it is helpful to get it in the micro so that we can understand it in the macro, I think. So,
I think that's like something that is really, really good, especially for some of our more seasoned Christians that are listening here today. It's very easy, as you've done Bible study before, you've heard a lot of messages, to try to connect bigger dots, but even in like just rereading, going back, listening to a message, I mean, how many messages have you heard on David and Goliath, but take in it like as its source and then move out, you know. So even outside of those stories, I remember reading, we've talked about this before, reading the Bible as God as the main character, not us. Go God, then David, then you. And that's the kind of the same flow outward. So what is it saying about God? Then read the story as David. You are not David. Now, how do you apply the God, David, you? into this. So yeah. Sorry.
What did David do that agreed with God? What did David do that didn't agree with God? What lessons then can I take rather than flipping this or trying to get ahead of yourself? That's the way I used to do math, by the way, is I would get frustrated trying to do math because I wanted to go faster. But anytime I could slow down, I didn't have a problem with math. I had a problem with trying to rush through steps. And so I'd forget things and I wouldn't get the thing. So, and that's just not math. That's every bit of school. So anyway, Ryan, any thoughts?
Just as you were saying, like, don't read Jesus into this. I was thinking like an Old Testament reader wouldn't have seen kinsman redeemer and thought, oh, Messiah. They would have appreciated the story for what it is, and we should learn to do the same. There are shades, there are like it, there is symbolism, but let's not read what we know of the New Testament into this story because this came way before the New Testament, right?
And I will add in the term to that too early. We can look back and go, oh, this is useful to be able 100%. to see some of the cool aspects of this. It's I'll call it, you're turning a crystal or a diamond around and seeing the different ways light gets a hold of it. And that's awesome. But we're saying let's get a hold of if you read. We'll just leave there. You got it. I don't want to back it so much. But so last week we talked about at least my structure. It doesn't mean it's the exhaustive structure. It's just one that I currently like. But when I'm looking through the book of Ruth, I think I go with 3 different sections. What I call the tragedy of Naomi, which is chapter 1. Naomi. Man, I was reading about this week, and something really cool. Some of the stuff that the book does is the movement from not enough to enough. One of the cool things. And so Naomi and her husband Elimelech, and probably your sons, move away from Bethlehem, and they move to Moab, which is a place they never should have been going, because the Old Testament, Deuteronomy 25, I want to say, is no to Moabites, and that's a longer kind of thing to explain. Sorry, Deuteronomy 23. I know you were thinking that and condemning me for referencing that wrong, but now I've corrected it. So, but they move, and while there, both sons die and her husband dies, and so both sons had gotten married, and now we've got 3 widows. And Naomi says to her daughters-in-law, and I just real quick to get through this, go back to your homes. I can't do anything for you. You're not going to marry kids that I have. I can't have kids, and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, different cultural kind of things. And Orpah goes back, and Naomi actually challenges them 3 times. Go back, go back, go back. And in reading this, there was at one point, it's possible that rabbis for converts would actually say, so somebody said they wanted to convert to Judaism, and this is just a very narrow period of time, I think, but there was a note about it that certain rabbis would say, no, you don't want to do this. Basically say, I'm not letting you, and go back, go home, go back to where you were, don't do this. And so it wasn't until the 3rd time that they actually committed, they would go, okay, you can join up, become part of the community. And I just like that kind of images. That would transform our I think our disciple making. I'm not recommending it. I just think sometimes things are too easy, and conceptually I want it to be free access to God, but I want there to be a significance to the decision, and I don't know how to create that. Different conversation. Anyway, so tragedy of Naomi. So they go back to now it's Naomi and Ruth who says, nope, I'm with you, period. Nothing's going to separate us. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I'll die. She fully commits. And so there is there's no baggage. I'm getting ready to say something, and there's don't attach any current baggage to it. But there is sort of a marriage level of commitment that seems to be wrapped up in this. There is a relational, we're one now. And that's all I mean. Nothing else about our current society that adds into that. Throw all that junk aside. Just allow these two people to be genuinely close. Now, what she's also said essentially is, you're my mother, and we get that sense because of how Ruth listens to Naomi. But I also think there's a disciple. I'm talking a bunch, and maybe I'll get to questions, but there's a disciple thing there, what we would call disciple. And again, I'm before, but there's a training kind of thing, is that Ruth is coming into a new culture, and the one who knows the culture is telling her how to act in that culture. And Ruth, in faithfulness, is doing what she's told.
Yeah.
So what do you guys say? I don't know how to form a question based off that, but when it comes to obedience, and where does that connect with faithfulness, and your thoughts, or do you have any other thoughts so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an interesting thing that because we usually attribute discipleship, apprenticeship, whatever word you want to use for it, to the New Testament teachings, because we get so many active directional teaching from Jesus, and then later in epistles with Paul and Peter and John, and all these writers that are going, hey, we're building a new church, where it seems Old Testament is it feels more cultural and lifestyle, like, hey, we are but we forget that what even in the direction from like Paul and Romans, which is like, hey, you're not trying to attach to new cultures or be assimilated. Were you a Gentile before? Well, great, you're a Gentile, but now you're a Christ follower. Were you a Jew before? Great, you're a Jew. Like, so but God's intention, his redeeming quality to our topic later today is I am trying to make you more of the people that I've called you to be. Right now we get a standard, which is a law and covenants that we live up to. A covenant being the promise, but the laws being then how do we fulfill this covenant on our end of the bargain. And so to bring somebody in, that is still our job. Not just pastors. It's very much so our job as pastors, but to everyone else that goes to the church. Every time we see a new face or somebody says yes to a life with Jesus, our job is to impart, hey, here's what this looks like now. So I think this is so incredibly important that we don't just look to the New Testament for that type of stuff. We see it here right now.
Yeah, it was good. I think also too, it's important to understand. I think we see in this story there's a difference between obedience and faithfulness. They can go hand in hand, but you can obey without being faithful, and that there's something extra about like the faithfulness aspect, right? There's something that really pleases the heart of God with that, and we see that in throughout Scripture, right? I think of, first of all, Hebrews 11. It's impossible to please God without faith, and so like faithfulness, right, is really near and dear to the heart of God, and you are able to obey without faithfulness, but faithfulness is what He's looking for. So
is this a little? I mean, some of the questions that come up later is the obedience over faithfulness is kind of sometimes a conversation of like the chicken and the egg. Like, are you obedient and then you learn in the obedience what faithfulness is, or are you faithful and then you become obedient because of your faith? Like to the James, what good is faith without works? And then you get Paul and then Peter's message of like, well, hey, but it's not about what you do, it's about who you believe in and what your faith is in. So there's always that interesting kind of dichotomy, and like the simple answer, yet it's still complicated to live out individually, is, well, what good is your faith without it changing your life? But then at the same time, there is a level, like starting a prayer life, it doesn't feel good. Like like it's easy, but it doesn't, like, you don't get the good feelings right away, or you don't feel the connectiveness because you're learning the language. And there's just like the honest way is you just got to do it over and over again, and then it becomes this faithful action that you lean to. So it's like, it's learning both sides of it and not trying to create this like black and white, this is how it's done every single time. There is this individualistic aspect of like, hey, some of us, we are way more emotionally driven, and it's going to be really easy to dive into the faith side of it. Some of us are more like action oriented. We're that type A. We're the leader. And so give me the steps, and then I'll build the long-term emotional resonance that will affect my life. And so, but making sure they're hand in hand.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. I think that there is I think there's a detriment. There's a place at which the dissection of concepts becomes a detriment. And so the division of works and faith is a weird conversation that ignores just common sense. And it seems like, oh, this is a really relevant thing, and this is what Paul and James are talking about, but it isn't what they're talking about. Paul, if he's referencing mostly when he's saying that, look, this is about faith, he's using an example. He's using a circumcision. When James is saying works are really important, you can't have faith without works, he's talking about, look, you're treating people awful and you're ignoring the most important things. You're saying you have faith, and yet you're literally you're being abusive, you're showing favoritism, you're manipulating, you're arguing, you're quarreling with each other. These aren't elements of faith. I know you're being attacked, but you need to control your temper. And Paul's not going to disagree with any of this.
No.
And James isn't going to disagree with the idea. He might, I think they did have some pushback. There seems to be historically been some challenges, but so this seems to be, to me, a breakdown. It's fun to, I think it's worthwhile to take it apart and look at it, but you need to understand that it doesn't function unless it's together. So it'd be, you could pull out your liver. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? And go, oh, this is what this thing looks like. But your whole body's going to break down if you remove your liver. So you're like, well, it just handles these things. It does. But look, if without it, all the other systems break down. And so we're wanting to dissect things and say, this is what this thing does. And we lose the holistic nature of how things work. We forget that our very basic relationships, like we're having even today, aren't dissectable. We can, in a sense, we can pull things out and go, here are the elements, but at no point are we able to define the entirety of an experience, or what it is to be friends, what it is to be parent and son, what it is to, have worked together for so long. You can't, you can do elements. You can even be creative with it. You can express it metaphorically and poetically and so other things. But there are limits. The life with God is more than the dissection. The parts do not add up to the whole. The whole has parts that we can look at and be amazed by. But when we start trying to create rules, this is how God operates, as if we're doing biology. No. This is where philosophy breaks. I love philosophy, but it's where philosophy breaks. I want to keep doing it. I will keep doing it. We make great breakthroughs practically when we get into these weeds and details. But ultimately, when we start talking about relationships, where the rubber hits the road, these things just do not add up to things that work. So for time, I've got about 10 minutes, and it's all my fault. I want to hit on so we can get through when we're doing this. So then we got they leave Moab, come back to Bethlehem. The next question is how are they going to eat right then? How do we gain immediate security? We need to have a place to stay. We need food. We need to be able to sustain ourselves right now. And so Naomi instructs Ruth to go to a certain field, and she's able to collect. She meets Boaz, and then the next question is, how are they going to secure long-term security, which is how do we continue to live, because we can't just be desperate every day, or we don't want to be. And this is where Boaz and Ruth really connect, and they end up getting married, and through a process Boaz essentially buys out and retains the property that was Elimelech's, Naomi's husband, and it's through that the family is brought back together. So very rough version of the story, and it's connected. The reason it's in the Bible, in my opinion, is because Ruth and Boaz have a child named Obed. Obed has a child named Jesse, and Jesse is father of David, who is King David. Okay, so this is the family line of David, who one of the main ones came out of Moab, which is crazy. So anyway, I want to explain every single thing here, and we don't have time, so I'm going to try not to overwhelm. But when I think about context, I think about which would be the next level. If we're gonna exegete this, we're gonna pull out and see what are the details within this, so that we can understand it, try to take away before we're interpreting. Let's see what's there. In a sense, I'm watching a detective show, and before we come to accuse the killer, let's pay attention to the details. Okay. So the interpretation is accusing the killer, and it's a weird way to put it, but let's look around. What are the clues we have so that they can draw us? The clues should lead us to the answer, not the answer causes us to see clues. Okay.
That's good.
All right. So, safety and loyalty then is within this, and it's back. I talked about it last week. When Ruth says, "Don't urge me to leave you," she's talking to in chapter 1. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. My people will be your people. My God, your God, my God. This is safety and loyalty, because one woman traveling by herself, incredibly dangerous. There's no cops at this point. There's no traveling soldiers that are keeping people safe. There's just a road. And nothing safe. And so Ruth coming alongside her at least adds some level of security. Still not great, but it's better than an older woman by herself. So the next within this is then Ruth 2. It's Boaz responding to Ruth when Ruth is just trying to get some food, glean some food, and Boaz says, I know everything you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. So basically there's this story. Everyone knows the quality of Ruth, and that because of that, the community of Naomi is starting to respond. Correct faithfulness is causing the benefit, the blessing, and I'm not talking spiritually. It's literally, you could see, you can comprehend how this works. It would be, I want my car to go, so I'm putting gas in it. It's that conceptually. How do I enter into healthy community? It's by responding correctly, by being the type of thing that exhibits healthy community. You don't want gossip in your life? Quit gossiping would be a simple, jumping forward kind of application. So anyway, safety and loyalty. The next is this Moabite thing, which I can't remember if we talked about last time, but Ruth's Moabite, and that's a problem because the Moabites acted terribly towards the Israelites when they were coming into the promised land. And so they're told, no Ammonite or Moabite or any of the descendants may enter the assembly of God. Well, it ends up being that Ruth, who is a Moabitess, and said over and over again in this book, so it's clear that there's some point, some importance to this thing. She doesn't belong here. But this non-Hebrew is acting like the best of the Hebrews. So anyway, that there would be great application. I'm ahead of, I don't want to get, I think, man, we can live this out. So I talked about the grain provision last time, where she's not, Boaz isn't just giving her a little bit. He's overwhelming her and making sure, because Ruth is taking care of somebody family-wise that Boaz honors, but also Boaz honors the life that Ruth is living, the faithfulness way that he's over blessing her. So the next one. So finally, we have two more things. One is kinsman redeemer, and the other is uncovered her feet, or uncovered his feet. So now, kinsman redeemer, briefly, what do you guys think about that? What do you have information about or anything like that when you hear it?
A rough, I guess, definition that I have, because I haven't studied this in a long time,
Yep.
but rough definition I have is like somebody who cares for somebody else at his own expense or at their own expense, doesn't require payment back, or that kind of thing. Like somebody who's going to take care of everything, who's going to shoulder the responsibility, which triggers thoughts of Genesis 15. It triggers thoughts of a lot of other things that we've seen and talked about thus far. So that's kind of my take.
Yeah, I mean, think of again, we're looking contextually within the culture that's here, where the male leader of the home is the authority. They're then also the owner. You talked about Amalek within this, and so when there is no male authority here, the kinsman redeemer, a family member typically, or a close neighbor within the individual tribes or families would take on what was lost, or it should have been lost, and then like, oh yeah, we'll just divvy these resources out to things. Like, no, it actually stays within the family, and it allows things to be taken care of, whether that's the individual or the crops or the animals, anything that would say the slaves, the whatever would be, they are all going to stay within this family, not be split out, not left alone in the desert. They are going to be recovered within this.
Yep. Awesome. Very much. This is 100% with every bit of it. And so we'll add to that, not take away. So let's say things aren't, let's begin with land ownership is, I'll use the term ownership, at least in the Bible at this point, loosely. If I'm there, I don't own my land. God has given a form of rights to it. God owns the land. And so I actually can't sell it, meaning I can't divest my family. I can't be taken away from it. So if things are going terribly for me, one of the options may be that I sell the land. Let's say I sell it to Ryan, so that I can actually function. Now, a version of this might be, now we're not in slavery, because the scripture or the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible said, don't make other Hebrew slaves to each other. But maybe while you've given me enough money to function, maybe Ryan also says, I'm going to give you seed, or I'm going to finance your ability to be, and but I'm going to take part of the crop as, to pay off the debt, because there is debt, but there's no slavery. There's also, but it's still mine. And so if they ever really did the whole Jubilee thing, at the end of 50 years, 49 years, then I would actually get that land back completely. Right. But anyway, so there's complicated, it's a bunch of things how did they maintain this? How did they maintain clan identity, group identity? And it'd be really, really important. And it's within this. So now if I'm Elimelech, I clearly done something with the land that was mine. I left, and now Naomi's coming back. And her mind, she's like, there's my husband's land still exists. How do we correct this situation? Because if there was no heir, then the land that I owned, so let's imagine all three of us had one dad, and we inherited from him 3 parts of his whole. So we each have a third. Well, actually it would be, let's call Ryan the old one. He would have a larger portion, and we would get each of ours. And so, let's say I pass away and I have no heir, and let's say it happens it's after dad has died, but before I have an heir or I'm married or anything like that, that my land gets divided between you two. It still stays in there. But if I've had all this, then there's a potential for if there is an heir or there is a married and everything, there's things, the land still needs someone who is it's theirs. It's still, even though it's a placeholder, it still exists. And so Elimelech's land still is there. If no one fills it, then it goes into and if you remember the story of Onan, the weird one, that's not about masturbation. It's about not being willing to allow possibly being selfish enough that he wanted to claim more land, or at least not being willing to give the rights to that land to something else and not have it be his own spawn, his own children. Anyway, but adds a cool complication to that, which is important. But anyway, so that land, hopefully I'm making sense here. That land, then Elimelech comes back. It still exists sort of in hold. And so what is needed in this situation, if it is that it needs redeemed, which means there's still debt on it. It still needs taken care of. Now, Naomi, in a sense, in the way she handled the relationships and stuff, and we don't have any other evidence that this happens, but still, this is what's happening in the story. Naomi is attaching Ruth through relationship to this land. Naomi's kind of leveraging, look, I know it's my husband and I don't technically have claim, but if you're going to do it right, you can technically get away without honoring this. But if you're going to do it right, which seems to be Boaz, who's not interested in just doing kind of right. He seems to go, no, I want to do the heart of this thing. That's just, it seems how he's made. And so he is going to, no, we're going to honor what Naomi's doing. And Ruth and Naomi kind of adjusts this and sends Ruth to do it a certain way. But what happens when they meet, then the reason Boaz becomes a kinsman redeemer is that he is one of the related ones who can pay the debt and thereby take ownership of the land, land.
Right.
With the intent in this situation to have a child so that technically this is the son of Elimelech. Really. I mean, or not Elimelech, but anyway, the breakdown. And so there is an identity that is being maintained. The entire plan of God is being accomplished in micro. So we can kind of see what faithfulness means over time on multiple different scales. So if you want a New Testament reference, we would go oh my gosh, totally disappearing. Not the prodigal, the traveling injured person, the Good Samaritan.
Good Samaritan,
where right action is resulting in an incredible thing. He is being a neighbor. In the right way.
It's an interesting thing, like that this isn't. I've always kind of heard this story in the context of like finding the right one, and this being like a courting a woman and it being this like it's a like a dating relationship story, but this is about actually making sure it's done right. So this isn't Boaz going like, all right, hey, look at this single lady at my feet in the threshing floor, and well, okay, so she's at my feet, which means now I can be the man of the house, like all this stuff. It's no, I'm going to fulfill Torah. Like what I'm presented right here is to do right. Not just now I get to have Ruth. I get to have this young woman. Like that is right. That is no, it's right, which is I'm actually going to give Ruth a child so that the land is redeemed. That's great. That's awesome.
I also see really quickly, I know we need to wrap this up. I also see this story as a microcosm of Deuteronomy 32:21. So I think I used to get really surprised when in the Old Testament I would see God like not like exalt, but kind of I guess exalt a Gentile over Jewish people, right? And that's kind of what's happening here. Ruth is like the best of the Jews, and she's not even Jewish; she's a Gentile. And I think we see the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 32:21 coming to pass in that, and Rahab, and other examples. And what I'm talking about is this verse is this is what it says. God calls his shot. He says, they have roused my jealousy by worshiping things that are not God. So he's talking about the Israelites. They've roused my jealousy by worshiping things that are not God. They've provoked my anger with their useless idols. Now I will rouse their jealousy through people who are not even a people. I will provoke their anger through foolish Gentiles. And so God even calls his shot 100 years before, like I'm actually in this, not just to redeem the Israelites, to redeem everybody. And I'm going to use whoever I need to use to accomplish the mission. And that's what kind of what I see here too. Like I just think it's really cool. So
and this is just basic wisdom that we overcomplicate, you know. And it's hard not to overcomplicate it. It's hard to do the basics when things around you are terrible. But to go with back to what I like referencing is everything I ever needed to know I learned in kindergarten. Don't throw sand. Even when sand's thrown at you, don't throw sand. That's hard. But this is a different level when we're talking about Ruth. So to push us along, the uncovered feet is what you're also talking about. And for listeners who don't know this, please read the story. It's 4 chapters, and you'll get it, and then come back and hear this again. But there's a point at which Naomi instructs Ruth, hey, after the work, do yourself up a little bit, and then so it kind of creates certain tensions on interpretation, how people are seeing it. But and she says uncover his feet, and so that's what she did. And so what does that mean? There's tons of theories. We don't know. Bottom line, we don't know. That doesn't mean we can't kind of go, what if? And great, do your what ifs, but just hold them loosely, because when she uncovers his feet and he wakes up and it says, oh, hey, you're here. One interpretation was that they slept together, but he was drunk and actually doesn't know. And so he wakes up going, oh, did we do something? Maybe I should marry you now. Another one is that, no, it has a symbolic meaning of, and I've heard a number of different ones and how much evidence there is for that. So is this a marriage request that she's making? I think that's actually what she's doing, is whatever the symbol is, she's saying, I'm willing to marry you. I actually need you to marry me. Or is it a sexual advance? When I'm hitting those kind of things, I think an interpretive thought. So this isn't going to solve this, but it's a thought when we're trying to deal with these complicated things. And it's this: has anything happened so far in this story or whatever story you're reading to indicate that your interpretation is the appropriate one, or that something is inappropriate? Like if we're reading the Sodom and Gomorrah story we did a number of weeks ago, there are strong indications that how people are acting is wrong. Not just because we have an opinion about it, but the narrative that pointing to, well, I think they're evil, and then they act in abusive and violent ways. We go, okay, that it's leading us in a certain direction. It's not trying to say their actions are good. And so when we're looking at Ruth and what she's doing, it's hard to not bring in our values or so-called values or points of view and things like that. But let the story indicate us. And is there anything that's happened so far to indicate that her rolling back and exposing feet is an inappropriate thing? Has she done anything inappropriate? And even if they do have sex, there's nothing in the story that, at least in that context, says that is inappropriate. That's not what the story is doing, even though we may think that it was wrong. And I'm not even saying that's what they did. I don't think it is. I think it's just a symbolic measure. But when the story isn't indicating that, then it's not, we're dragging other things into it. So or is it a reveal of a bad guy or a bad girl? Or does it seem like this is intended to be understood as positive?
Yeah.
And everything about this encounter is intended to be understood as a positive thing.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, whether you like it or not, it's a positive thing that she both does and his response.
Yeah. I mean,
It
if
does
you
the work
go,
positive.
I think if you even go back to this could knowing all of this context, this is, I would say, this is Naomi giving Boaz permission to be the redeemer. So and this is Ruth following through. She's loyal to Naomi, and she's going, yes, this is the plan. This is what it is. And it's not getting one over on Boaz. It's giving him permission to do the thing. And Boaz isn't, what we get in this is he is not demanding that I'm the redeemer, so I get you. We don't get that language from Boaz at all. And
the opposite.
We get the
Entirely.
opposite. Yeah. And so Naomi is saying, I know the customs. I know what is supposed to be done right here. And as he's presented us as a potential redeemer, I'm sending you as the message of Ruth is the one to redeem the household. Boaz, will you follow through? Will you do your thing? Knowing that Boaz is a person who will not take advantage of the person that was loyal and faithful to her. In fact, Boaz will fulfill the thing and do what is right. What's significant again in this is that God is still doing this through a Moabite. He is still doing this through what would be considered, although we are doing everything right, this is not the person that it should be fulfilled through, and yet he is still doing that.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. So we're going to wrap up because I'm way past. So these three different levels of narrative that I was talking about: the individual, we got a problem with Ruth. Elimelech owned land but died, so his sons should inherit, but they die. Now left Naomi and Ruth, who could not inherit the land. So the resolution is Ruth shows a rare type of strength and character and faithfulness, Hesed, that chooses to not leave another woman alone and vulnerable. That caring for what God cares about, regardless of where you're from, results in God's acceptance. And we see that in Boaz, who is, if you're looking for types, we've got a type of God in here. This is the correct direction of, or a good direction of understanding that. And then finally,
type, not a type of little G.
Exactly. Yes, great. Application of Torah solves problems. During the times of the judges, what Boaz chose as right in his own eyes. This is what is said over and over again in Judges. Everyone did what they saw as right in their own eyes. Boaz is doing the same. And what he saw as right in his own eyes is faithfulness to God.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
I love that.
Here's the one that I referenced right at the beginning is, think about this. Naomi lived in Bethlehem, and Bethlehem, I love this. Bethlehem's the house of bread. Bethlehem, and they left the house of bread because there was no bread, and came back with a Moabite and found plenty.
A lifetime.
Where Bethlehem became bread again, became life again, and this is just so cool. Anyway,
love it.
The next level is God's redemption of Israel, and the result of this whole thing is the line of David. And we get, and David is, if you're going to do types, then we've got Christ type in this situation. And then finally, the whole universal plan of God, at least for Christians and redemptive history, this is the line of Jesus. Referenced specifically in genealogies. And we have this idea of kinsman redeemer, the relation who comes in and pays the debt.
Yeah.
Guys, this is why I love the book of Ruth, because it ends right. I love happy stories. I don't want to feel like crud. And so this is just a redemption story of an outsider being brought in because the outsider acted the way the insider should be acting. In Judges, where the book of Judges ends with insiders acting like utter outsiders, insiders acting like Sodom. Now we've got the exact opposite, where an outsider is acting like an insider, acting where a non-Hebrew becomes an accepted of one of the children. When somebody who wasn't a children is grafted in and accepted because they are faithful and they show the type of kingdom loyalty to someone whom God loves, and God's response is, yeah, that's what we're talking about. Let's do this.
That's good.
Anyway.
Yeah. And this is, if you want to, go back to that in Matthew chapter 1, we get a listing of a few mothers, and Ruth, Rahab, then Ruth ends up being an important understanding of why this book matters, and to how we are leading to Christ. So, anyways,
good.
Yeah,
what a great one. Let's go.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Craig. Let's wrap this up. All right, people, if you are enjoying the Odd Testament podcast, we would love your support. The best way to help us to keep bringing all this odd content your way is to show us some love. And here's how you can do that. First, take a moment, rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Rate us, give us 5 stars, review us. If it's 1 star, tell us in the comments and the reviews why it's a 1 star, but give us those 5-star comments. That would help us greatly. Next, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Wherever you're at, hit that notification button, subscribe, like, follow, all that good stuff. We would really appreciate it. And finally, follow us on social media for updates, for clips, highlights of each episode. We post daily, so we would love to engage with you there. If you have any suggestions for us on books of the Bible or topics you want us to hit, let us know on social media, or you can email us at oddtestamentpod@gmail.com.
Pictures of Ryan's feet. If you want. We're just trying to monetize this thing.
Your support means the world to us, and together we can continue bringing all this odd, amazing content to the world. Guys, thanks for jumping on today. We will catch everybody next time.
Bye.
Bye.